Hello, my name is Art Ryder, and I'm a field service technician for AMP Incorporated. I'd like to take a few minutes of your time today to familiarize you with the AMP Tel-Splice connector. The Tel-Splice connector is a hard shell, discrete wire connector designed for the twisted pair wire within the telephone industry. Some of the items I'd like to cover are connector features, applications, and associated tooling. Let's begin with features. Tel-Splice connectors are available in many forms. They come in 2-wire, 3-wire, half-tap, clear and cap, filled, unfilled, flame retardant, loose piece, or cartridge form. As you can see, Tel-Splice is a connector family that can accommodate any job requirement: straight splicing, bridge, half-tap, or clear and cap, free breathing or controlled environment, customer premise, small or large count splices. Another feature I'd like to cover are the contacts. They are made of a tin-plated phosphor bronze material for corrosion resistance. They employ a unique insulation displacement contact which allows any combination of 19 through 26 gauge wire and has 2 insulation displacement contacts per conductor, which allows for the gauge range and contact redundancy. Please notice that the first contact, or the contact closest to the wire entrance port, is larger and has been designed to accommodate the 19 to 22 gauge wire. The back contact, or contact furthest from the wire entrance port, is smaller and designed to accommodate the smaller 24 to 26 gauge wire. Then notice the open area between the 2 contacts. This is to provide space between the contacts so that each contact will operate independently and will not interfere with the contact adjacent to it. Let's continue on with wire port features. They are funneled and extend all the way to the rear of the connector housing. This design eliminates the possibility of having 2 conductors in one termination slot, makes it easier to insert the wires even in dimly lit conditions, and helps ensure a quality connection. The wire ports are also designed to accommodate even the extra heavy insulation found on 19 gauge PIC wire. The last feature I would like to cover is the connector housing. All of the connector housings, except those that are rated as flame retardant, are made from polypropylene. This material is impervious to most chemicals found within the telephone industry, such as insecticides, solvents, cleaners, or petroleums. Flame retardant housings are made of a clear thermoplastic known as polycarbonate. Clearing caps are made of acetal. 2-wire Tel-Splice connectors, as well as clearing caps, are packaged 100 per box, 1,000 per tub, and in cartridge form 72 connectors per cartridge. 3-wire Tel-Splice connectors are packaged 100 per box, or 500 per tub, and in cartridge form 56 connectors per cartridge. Half-tap Tel-Splice connectors are also packaged 100 per box, 1,000 per tub. Half-tap is not available in cartridge form. If the housing is a translucent white, it is either a 2- or 3-wire connector, and they contain a grease filling. If the housing is a translucent blue, it is a half-tap connector and is also grease-filled. If the housing is green, it is a clearing cap. Clear housings signify flame retardant connectors. If a connector has a yellow dot or has a translucent yellow housing, it is unfilled or dry. Let's now talk about the Tel-Splice connector tools available from AMP Incorporated. The economy tool, AMP part number 231839-2, is for use on small count loose piece splices. Other industry standard parallel jaw pliers can be used. Please check with your local AMP representative for additional information before using these. I'd like to demonstrate the termination procedure for loose piece 2- or 3-wire connectors. The first step, to trim the wire ends flush, as you see here. Next, insert the wires into the connector, ensuring that the wires have bottomed in the housing. Position the jaws of the tool over the connector and squeeze the tool handles together until both halves of the connector housing have bottomed to each other. This completes the termination procedure for 2 or 3 wire connections. Termination of half-tap connectors are as follows. Place the through wire into the connector slot. Then insert the tap wire into the wire port until it is bottomed in the connector housing. Press the housing halves together with your fingers to pre-crimp and hold the wires in place. Again, position the jaws of the tool over the connector and squeeze the handles until both halves of the connector have bottomed to each other. To ensure that the wires have been bottomed in the connector, the installer should make sure that the wire ends are in contact with the back of the connector. Also, after termination of a connector, the installer should inspect the crimped height of the connector. This is especially important when using tools other than amp tools. A gauge is packaged with every 1,000 pieces of loose piece product. To gauge a terminated connector, place the finished connector into the slot of the gauge that depicts the gauge of the wires that were terminated. Slide the gauge away from the connector. It should slide with little to no drag. Now I'd like to show you the amp cartridge tool, part number 230722-1. This tool is used on small or large count splices where handling the connector is not practical or productivity is a concern. Before loading the tool, you should adjust the connector stop to the opposite side of the tool from which you would like the connectors to be discharged. Using a small Phillips head screwdriver, remove the set screw and slide the stop around the front of the tool to the opposite side and replace the set screw. Position the tool selector knob for either the 2 or 3 wire connector. Pull the selector knob out and move it into the upper detent for 2 wire connectors or lower detent for 3 wire connectors. We will be using 2 wire connectors for this demonstration, so I'll set mine for that. Now we are ready to load the tool. First, hold the tool in one hand so that the word amp is upside down. With the other hand, reach up under the handle and grip the pusher slide with the thumb and center finger. Pull the slide to the back of the tool and depress the slide with the index finger. This will lock the slide to the rear of the tool. Next, hold the tool so that the word amp is upright. Hold the cartridge to be installed beside the tool on the same side that the connectors will be discharged from. This is to ensure that the top row of connectors are facing out. If they are not, turn the cartridge end for end and check it again. Without turning the cartridge around, move it to the rear of the tool, depress the latch button, and slide the cartridge into the tool until it's bottomed, and release the latch button. Pull the pusher slide back. This will unlock it, and then allow it to slam forward. This will drive the first connector into the ready position. The tool is now ready to be used. Extend the wires to be spliced and trim the ends flush. Insert the wires into the wire entrance port until they bottom into the connector housing. Close the handle until it bottoms. Allow the handle to open, and the tool will eject the terminated connector and position a new connector for the next termination. After completing a splice, the installer should check the connector for termination height. You can use the gauge supplied with loose piece product or the gauge that has been built into the front of the cartridge tool. To use the cartridge tool gauge at the front of the tool, place the terminated connector in the gauge slot that depicts the gauge of the wires terminated. The connector should slide out of the gauge with little to no drag. When the row of connectors has been used, it will be necessary to rotate the cartridge 90 degrees. This is accomplished by, again, using your center finger and thumb, pull the slide to the back of the tool and lock it by depressing it with the index finger. Then squeeze the latch button and pull the cartridge out of the tool. Turn the cartridge 90 degrees and push it back into the tool. Release the latch button and allow the slider to slam forward again. In the event you should have to remove a cartridge with an unfinished row of connectors, please remember to close the connector gate to prevent the loss of unused connectors. This completes the information on the AMP Tel-Splice connectors and termination tooling. I'd like to thank you for taking your time today to view this video. I hope that it will help you in your daily splicing requirements. If you have a need for any additional information, please contact your local AMP representative. Have a nice day.